Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're opening up some really fascinating research.
Yeah, it presents a claim that honestly sounds pretty radical at first glance.
Right. What if the main answer, the solution to the big three diseases, seniors face heart disease, type 2 diabetes, dementia. What if it wasn't some complicated drug, expensive, locked behind a prescription?
But something accessible, based on just simple movement and breath.
Exactly. That's the core idea we're diving into.
Yeah, and that's our mission today. We're unpacking a substantial body of evidence. It suggests that these gentle, modified yoga practices could actually be the most powerful non-drug intervention out there.
For the major illnesses of aging.
Right. We're not talking magic cures here. It's about finding that that biological reset button the body already has, proven mechanisms.
And the premise we found, it's genuinely disruptive, isn't it? It kind of challenges the whole geriatric healthcare model.
It really does.
Because the claim isn't just, it helps a bit. It's that doing simple movements, maybe 30 minutes a day consistently, could give results that are comparable to, sometimes even better than, standard meds for blood pressure, diabetes, even some dementia treatments.
If that holds true, that really changes how we think about managing health after 60. It's fundamental.
It's disruptive because the scale of the problem is just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. Think about it. Millions of seniors dealing with high blood pressure, blood sugar issues, memory worries.
Yeah.
When you look at how common these are and the sheer volume of pills needed just to, keep things sort of managed.
Right.
The idea that something accessible, basically free, could do the job, that's revolutionary. It really is.
Okay, but let's tackle the skepticism head on. Because when people hear yoga,
instantly a barrier goes up. Yeah.
They picture that super flexible 20-something on Instagram, right? Or like expensive studios.
Totally. Or they think I'm too old, I'm too stiff, I can't do that.
And that's valid skepticism based on the common image.
We absolutely have to address that because the science we looked at, it focuses almost entirely on really modified, really accessible stuff.
Like chair yoga.
Exactly. Using a chair for support.
Yeah.
Simple stretches. Things that improve mobility but don't strain you. Basic breathing techniques.
So zero flexibility needed. No balance, no athletic background.
None. Zero. This is designed for people with chronic pain, limited movement, people who feel they're just too old or too sick to even think about exercise.
Okay, let's ground this with a story. Let's talk about Dorothy.
Dorothy, yeah. A 78-year-old retired teacher from Maine. Her story really hits home.
Her life was kind of ruled by her medication schedule, wasn't it?
Completely. It's a situation so many people face, sadly. Her kitchen counter, filled with those plastic pill organizers, managing, I think it was 7 different medications.
7, wow.
Yeah. For high blood pressure, cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, then had arthritis, pain, depression, insomnia, just this whole cascade.
That's a heavy chemical load to manage every single day.
It is, and the sources noted she was really resistant to trying yoga at first.
Understandable, maybe, after relying on expensive drugs for so long.
Exactly. She'd spent years and thousands of dollars on these complex pharmaceuticals from top doctors. So the idea that something free and natural, as you put it, could actually work.
It felt almost insulting.
That's the word used, yeah. It didn't compute with her experience.
So how did she start?
It was actually her daughter, who's a physical therapist. She finally convinced Dorothy to try just 15 minutes, guided chair yoga 3 times a week.
Just 15 minutes. Doing what?
Really simple stuff, gentle seated twists, slow arm raises, just basic mindful breathing, nothing strenuous at all.
And Dorothy's reaction?
Crucially, she admitted feeling, foolish doing it. She thought, how can these tiny little movements possibly do anything against 7 major diseases?
Right, the disconnect.
But that's where the body's own intelligence comes in. It doesn't always need complexity, it just needs the right signal, the right biological cue.
And did she get results? What was the signal doing?
Within about 6 weeks, things started to shift. Tangible results. Her blood pressure readings started coming down.
Right.
Her morning blood sugar levels, they were lower, more stable, fewer of those big spikes and crashes she used to have.
That's significant.
And maybe the most profound thing for her personally, she started sleeping through the night, properly sleeping, without her sleeping pills for the first time in years.
Wow.
And look, this wasn't a miracle cure overnight. It was her nervous system finally starting to reset, getting out of that chronic stress mode.
That's the key transition, isn't it? From skepticism, polypharmacy, to actual measurable biological change.
Exactly. And that's where we go now. Beyond the anecdote, let's dive into the how. The actual biological mechanics, the cellular stuff, the hormones that explain how these simple movements, this breath work, can start reprogramming decades of imbalance.
Okay, section 1, cardiovascular health. The heart, the blood vessels, they really take a beating with age, don't they?
They absolutely bear the brunt. Yeah. After 60, you've got decades of wear and tear, inflammation. The system is under constant strain.
So what's the core problem driving things like high blood pressure, stiff arteries in older adults?
I often think of it like a pressure cooker that's just stuck on high.
Yeah.
Your cardiovascular system after 60 is often under this relentless pressure.
Yeah.
You've got that background inflammation stiffening the arteries. They lose their bounce,
Right.
But the real silent driver, it's the constant drip, drip, drip of chronic stress hormones. Cortisol, adrenaline,
Fight or flight.
always on. Every little worry, every minor stress, real or imagined, flips that switch. Heart rate stays up. Blood vessels constrict. Blood pressure stays high. The body basically lives in a constant state of low-grade emergency. It never fully exits. Exhausting.
So the system's stuck in overdrive. Sympathetic nervous system running the show.
Precisely.
If that's the issue, this overstressed system, how does something seemingly passive like gentle movement and breathing actually push back effectively?
Because it's the ultimate nervous system reset button. We need to understand the autonomic nervous system, the ANS. It controls all the automatic stuff, breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, digestion.
Right, the background operations.
Exactly. And it has two main modes. Sympathetic, that's the gas pedal, fight or flight. Parasympathetic, the PNS, that's the brake, rest, and digest.
And seniors under stress are basically flooring the gas all the time.
Constantly, yeah. So yoga, especially the breathing part, what's called pranayama, it acts like consciously, deliberately tapping the brakes.
How does the breathing do that specifically?
It's fascinating biologically. When you intentionally slow down your breathing, especially making the exhale longer than the inhale,
Okay.
you slightly increase the carbon dioxide concentration in your lungs for a bit longer. Specialized receptors in your brainstem pick up on this tiny chemical shift.
And that sends a signal.
It does, primarily via the vagus nerve, which is the superhighway of the parasympathetic system. That signal tells the brain, essentially, okay, danger's past. And the immediate response is lower the heart rate, stop pumping out so much cortisol and adrenaline, and tell the blood vessels, you can relax now.
So it's not just relaxing. You're using breath to send a direct chemical message to the brainstem to flip that switch from stress to, healing mode.
That is the biological key, absolutely. And the reduction in those circulating stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, it's profound. Those are the chemicals keeping the pressure cooker on high. Dial them down, and the body's own pressure regulation systems can start working properly again.
Let's connect this to some hard numbers, because it's not just theory. That Harvard Medical School research you mentioned.
Right, the study with seniors who had hypertension, that was really important data.
What did it find?
They took 65 seniors, all with diagnosed hypertension, had them practice gentle yoga consistently for 12 weeks. The results were, frankly, hard for conventional medicine to ignore. Average systolic blood pressure, that's the top number. Pressure during a heartbeat dropped by 11 points.
11 points. That's significant.
Very significant. And the diastolic, the bottom number, dropped an average of 6 points.
So for anyone listening who tracks their numbers, an 11-point drop in systolic,
Right.
That's definitely in the range you'd hope for from a medication.
Exactly. It puts the effects squarely in the therapeutic range of many common first-line blood pressure drugs. But here's the kicker. 0 recorded side effects. Think about standard BP meds. They often cause dizziness, fatigue, that lightheadedness when you stand up.
Which increases fall risk, a huge danger for seniors.
A massive danger. Yoga delivered a comparable benefit without introducing that whole other layer of risk. That's huge.
Okay, so that's the nervous system angle. But you also mentioned a physical change in the blood vessels themselves, endothelial function.
Yes, mechanism 2. Improving the health of the endothelium.
What is the endothelium exactly?
Think of it as the super thin, delicate inner lining of every single blood vessel and artery in your body. Just one cell thick, like the smooth, nonstick coating inside your plumbing pipes.
Okay. And why is it so important?
A healthy endothelium is incredibly active. It produces nitric oxide. That's a key signaling molecule that tells the muscle layer in the vessel wall when to relax and widen, dilate, or when to tighten up, constrict.
So it controls the flexibility of the pipes.
Precisely. But when the endothelium gets damaged by years of high pressure, inflammation, high blood sugar, it gets stiff, scarred, and stops producing nitric oxide efficiently.
So the pipe becomes rigid, can't adjust.
Exactly. And if the vessels can't relax and widen easily, the pressure stays high. Now, studies using ultrasound imaging have shown that regular yoga practice actually improves endothelial function. It seems that the gentle, rhythmic cycles of stretching, muscle contraction, and then relaxation, combined with that flood of rest and digest signals from the PNS, it triggers some kind of cellular repair process. The endothelial cells start working better again, the vessels become more responsive, more elastic, and they regain their ability to help regulate blood pressure naturally.
Which brings us back to Frank.
Yeah.
The 72-year-old ex-construction worker. Tough guy, facing really dangerous blood pressure.
Frank is the perfect example of the skeptic. He built his life on physical strength, right? So the idea that just stretching slowly and breathing deeply could fix his hypertension, which his doctor called a walking time bomb for stroke, it just seemed absurd to him.
He expected, stronger drugs, more aggressive interventions.
Oh, something so gentle.
But he did it 3 times a week for 4 months, the source said. What happened?
His blood pressure normalized, came right down into the healthy range.
Wow.
And the source specifically mentions his cardiologist's reaction, just sheer disbelief, because usually with such severe, long-standing high blood pressure, the approach is just to keep adding more and more drugs.
Right.
Frank's story really highlights it. If you target the core biology switch on the PNS, cut the cortisol, help the endothelium heal, the body responds. It responds powerfully regardless of how skeptical you were at the start or what shape you're in.
Okay, let's shift gears. Section 2, type 2 diabetes, another massive issue for seniors.
Huge. Affects nearly 30% of people over 65 in the U.S. And the complications are just brutal. Nerve damage, kidney failure, losing your eyesight.
It really steals quality of life independence.
Diabetes is like accelerated aging for your whole system. To understand how yoga helps, we first need to be clear on the fundamental problem: insulin resistance.
Right, the lock jammed with rust analogy.
It's a perfect picture. Insulin made by the pancreas is the key. Its job is to unlock the doors on your muscle and fat cells, letting glucose blood sugar get inside to be used for energy. With insulin resistance, the rust, that key doesn't work well anymore. The lock is jammed, so glucose can't get into the cells easily. It builds up in the bloodstream where it becomes toxic, damaging those tiny blood vessels everywhere.
And the pancreas?
It tries to compensate by pumping out way more insulin, trying harder to force the lock. Eventually, it just gets exhausted and burns out.
So we need to somehow give the pancreas a rest and clean the rust off that lock. How does gentle yoga do that? Seems like a tall order.
It tackles it from 3 different angles at once, really effectively. It's a synergistic attack.
Okay, angle 1.
First, and maybe the most direct, is something called insulin-independent glucose uptake.
Meaning the muscles can grab glucose without needing the insulin key at all.
Exactly. When your muscle fibers contract and relax, even the gentle contractions in simple yoga poses, it triggers a mechanism inside the muscle cell that pulls glucose directly from the bloodstream.
Just the movement itself does that.
Just the mechanical action of movement. It doesn't need the insulin signal for this particular pathway. This provides a huge immediate benefit. It lowers the glucose load in the blood right away, and it gives those overworked pancreas cells a much-needed break.
Okay, that makes sense. What's the second angle?
Takes us back to cortisol again. Cortisol regulation.
The stress hormone strikes again.
It's a major villain in diabetes too. High cortisol does 2 bad things here. First, it tells your liver to make and release more glucose into the bloodstream called gluconeogenesis. It's preparing for that emergency.
Which is the last thing someone with diabetes needs.
Precisely. Second, cortisol itself directly interferes with how well the insulin receptors work, even the ones that aren't completely rusted. It makes the resistance worse.
So yoga, by lowering chronic stress and cortisol,
cuts off that damaging cycle. It stops the liver from flooding the system with extra sugar, and it helps the existing insulin work a bit better.
Right. And the third front, you mentioned it's key to the rust itself.
Yes. Visceral fat reduction. This is crucial.
Okay, visceral fat, that's the dangerous internal fat, right? Not the stuff you can pinch.
Exactly. It's the fat deep inside, wrapped around your organs, liver, pancreas, intestines. And this isn't just inert storage. Visceral fat acts like a toxic factory.
How so?
It constantly pumps out inflammatory chemicals, these things called cytokines. These chemicals directly interfere with insulin signaling at the cell level. They are a primary source of the rust that jams the insulin lock.
So gentle yoga, even if it's not like intense cardio burning tons of calories,
Yeah.
it still helps reduce this specific type of fat.
Yes. It seems that the consistency of the practice, combined with the overall reduction in stress hormones and inflammation, is very effective at gradually breaking down this dangerous visceral fat over time.
And by reducing that fat, you reduce the inflammatory chemicals.
Which helps clean the rest off the insulin receptors. The cells become more sensitive to insulin again. The key starts working properly. You're addressing the root mechanical failure of type 2 diabetes.
This multi-pronged approach really seemed to work for Martha, the 68-year-old grandmother you mentioned.
Martha's story is powerful because she was really at a crossroads. Her doctor basically said, look, your oral meds aren't cutting it anymore. Your diabetes is getting worse. We need to start you on insulin injections.
Which was a line she really didn't want to cross.
Desperately not. It scared her, thinking about lifelong injections, the implications for her independence.
So her commitment was pretty focused.
Very intentional, 30 minutes, 5 days a week, modified poses, breathing, and some meditation.
And you mentioned the side effect.
Yeah, a really positive one. She noted that the mindfulness aspect, just paying more attention to her body, naturally led her to make healthier food choices too. It wasn't forced, it just started happening.
Okay, and the clinical results. After 6 months.
Dramatic.
Yeah.
Her hemoglobin A1C, that's the test showing average blood sugar over the last 3 months or so, it dropped from 8.1%, which is well into the diabetic range, down to 6.2%.
Wait, 6.2%? That's basically out of the diabetic range, isn't it?
It took her completely out of the diabetic range. It's considered pre-diabetes or even normal for some labs. A massive reversal.
So what does her doctor say?
Canceled the insulin prescription she was dreading, and they were able actually to start reducing her oral medications as well.
Wow.
Martha's case is just compelling proof that triple attack, the insulin-independent uptake, the cortisol control, the visceral fat reduction, it really can reboot your metabolic health.
Okay, moving to our third major area, cognitive decline and dementia. This is maybe the biggest fear for so many people as they get older. Losing their mind, their identity.
It's profound fear. And the processes involved are destructive, no doubt. We're talking amyloid plaques, tau tangles, damage to the brain's blood vessels, chronic inflammation, killing off neurons.
Yeah, and for a long time, the thinking was the aging brain just breaks down. It's inevitable.
That was the old model. But the huge shift in neuroscience recently is embracing neuroplasticity.
The idea that the brain can change, even rewire itself.
Exactly. It can form new connections, maybe even generate some new neurons well into old age. The issue isn't necessarily age itself, but maybe the lack of the right kind of stimulation and the accumulation of damage from things like inflammation and poor blood flow.
And yoga, you argue, provides that right kind of stimulation in multiple ways. The triple threat.
It really is a triple threat because it hits the brain's needs on several levels, simultaneously: chemical, physical, structural.
Threat number one.
Just movement, simple physical movement. Even gentle yoga poses matter hugely because they increase blood flow hemodynamics to the brain.
Why is blood flow so critical?
2 main reasons. 1, it delivers the essentials, oxygen and nutrients. 2, it acts like a waste removal system. It helps flush out the metabolic byproducts, the cellular junk that can build up and contribute to things like plaque formation. Good plumbing is essential.
Okay, makes sense. Threat number 2.
The breath control. Pranayama again.
How does that help the brain specifically?
Consciously controlling your breath, especially in those slow, deep patterns, increases oxygen saturation levels throughout your body, including, crucially, in your brain. More oxygen equals better brain function.
Like giving the brain a cleaner fuel source.
Kind of. It also seems to activate brain regions involved in focus, clarity, attention. It's like a gentle, consistent boost to your cognitive engine.
All right. And the third part of the threat, you said structural changes.
Yes. Meditation and mindfulness. This is where it gets really exciting from a neuroscience perspective.
How so?
The meditative aspects that are often part of yoga practice, focusing attention, being present, they literally change the physical structure of the brain over time.
You mean the brain actually gets thicker in some areas?
Measurably, yes.
Yeah.
Brain imaging studies show that people who practice regularly long-term tend to have thicker gray matter in specific areas, notably the prefrontal cortex.
Which is key for decision-making, planning, executive functions.
Exactly. And also the hippocampus.
The memory center. the area that typically shrinks with age and especially in Alzheimer's.
Precisely that area. So we're talking about potentially thickening the very brain regions most vulnerable to age-related decline and dementia.
That's incredible.
And it's not just gray matter. Imaging also shows better white matter integrity. Those are the connections, the wiring between brain regions. Better wiring means better communication, faster processing. It's physical evidence of neuroplasticity strengthening the brain's resilience.
And there's broader research backing this up.
Yes, a big review looked at 11 different studies. It confirmed that yoga significantly improved various cognitive functions in older adults: memory, attention, processing speed, executive function.
Was there a time frame? Like, how long did it take to see results?
The most noticeable and reliable improvements tended to show up after about 12 weeks of regular, consistent practice. So it suggests you need that consistency to really start making those structural and functional changes stick.
Which brings us to Richard, the 81-year-old retired accountant. Meticulous guy.
Richard's story is fascinating. He was analytical, right? Used to tracking details. When he started noticing memory slips that worried him, an MRI confirmed he had some early brain shrinkage. Atrophy.
So he approached yoga differently.
He approached it like a science experiment, basically. He researched the brain benefits, then committed fully, daily yoga practice, and he added 20 minutes of focused meditation every morning for a whole year.
He treated it like a critical project.
Like the most important project, yeah. And the results, according to the sources, were remarkable for someone his age.
What did the follow-up show?
Follow-up imaging showed the brain atrophy hadn't progressed, it had stopped.
Okay, stopping the decline is huge in itself at 81.
It is, but it got better. Some of his cognitive test scores actually improved. His memory scores got better. And critically, the MRI showed a small but measurable increase in the volume of his hippocampus.
An increase in hippocampal volume in an 81-year-old brain.
That's the finding. It's profoundly hopeful. It challenges that whole idea of inevitable decline.
Yeah.
It suggests the brain can respond positively, even late in life. If you give it the right inputs, that combination of movement, oxygenation from breath, and focused mental training from meditation that yoga offers, you can potentially trigger and sustain neuroplasticity. You can help preserve identity, preserve function for much longer.
Okay, so we've seen benefits for the heart, for blood sugar, for the brain. Diverse benefits. Is there a unifying thread here, a core mechanism?
There absolutely is, and it brings us to probably the single most important concept in understanding aging and chronic disease today: chronic low-grade inflammation.
Not a new cause.
It really seems to be the biological glue connecting heart disease, diabetes, dementia, arthritis, even many cancers. Scientists have a term for the specific age-related inflammation: inflammaging.
Inflammaging, that sounds active, like aging isn't just passive decay.
That's exactly the idea. It suggests that after around age 60, many people's bodies exist in the state of like a constant low-level simmer. The immune system is always slightly activated.
Not like a raging infection, but just always on.
Exactly. Not acute inflammation you feel with an injury, but this persistent background noise. The body is constantly churning out low levels of inflammatory chemicals called cytokines. And these chemicals, over time, damage cells, speed up tissue aging, and create the perfect toxic environment for chronic diseases to develop and worsen.
And conventional medicine struggles with this low-grade fire.
It often does, yeah, because the treatments for severe inflammation are usually powerful immune-suppressing drugs, which have their own risks. It's hard to target this subtle systemic issue safely.
So how does yoga act as the systemic fire extinguisher here?
It seems to be the ultimate anti-inflammatory lifestyle intervention because it modulates the whole internal environment. It's not just masking symptoms. Studies show regular yoga practice leads to measurable, significant drops in key inflammatory markers in the blood.
You mean you could actually see the inflammation going down in blood tests?
Yes, we're talking about changes in the body's chemistry.
Which specific markers are we seeing reduced?
3 big ones consistently pop up. First, C-reactive protein, or CRP. That's made by the liver, and it's like the body's general inflammation alarm bell. High CRP means inflammation's somewhere.
Okay.
Then interleukin-6, IL-6, and tumor necrosis factor alpha, TNF-alpha. These are potent pro-inflammatory cytokines. Think of them as chemical messengers that really drive inflammation, tissue damage, and pain locally. Yoga helps bring the levels of these down.
So it's not just helping a sore knee feel better, it's actually calming down the whole body's immune and stress response.
It's truly holistic. It works through several pathways at once. We've talked about improving sleep. Better sleep is hugely anti-inflammatory. Reducing Cortisol itself can drive inflammation, but maybe the most direct anti-inflammatory mechanism involves the vagus nerve again.
Ah, the vagus nerve. We talked about it for heart rate. It affects inflammation too.
Critically, the vagus nerve is the main communication line between the brain and the immune system, particularly organs like the spleen. It acts like the body's natural dimmer switch for inflammation.
How does it do that?
When the vagus nerve is healthy and active toned, is the word scientists use, it sends signals that actually tell immune cells to produce fewer of those inflammatory cytokines, like TNF-alpha and IL-6.
And yoga stimulates the vagus nerve.
Yes, particularly the mindful breathing, the relaxation response, the meditative aspects. They are powerful, non-drug ways to improve vagal tone. So by practicing yoga, you're essentially turning down the volume knob on chronic inflammation throughout your body. There's even evidence it changes how your genes related to inflammation are expressed over time.
Susan's story seems like a perfect illustration of this in action. The 74-year-old with rheumatoid arthritis.
Susan's case was severe. Rheumatoid arthritis, very high inflammation levels in her blood work, despite medications. The pain and stiffness were crippling. She couldn't do simple things like open a jar or button her clothes. Her joints were incredibly sensitive.
So her yoga had to be extremely gentle, focusing on mobility.
Extremely gentle, yeah. Focused on just maintaining joint mobility within a pain-free range, lots of breath work, no forcing anything.
And the result after 3 months?
Quite remarkable. Her self-reported pain levels dropped by more than half. Her morning stiffness, which is a classic sign of high inflammation in RRA, practically disappeared.
That's life-changing.
Absolutely. But here's the objective proof. Her rheumatologist confirmed her inflammatory markers in her blood tests had dropped significantly. So significantly, in fact, that they were able to safely reduce some of her arthritis medications.
Wow. So it wasn't just feeling better, the underlying disease process was actually calming down.
That's the point. It suggests yoga is fighting the root cause, that systemic inflammaging.
What really stands out across all these stories, Dorothy, Frank, Martha, Richard, Susan, is how accessible this seems to be.
Yeah.
None of them started as athletes.
Not at all. And that is maybe the most crucial takeaway for anyone listening. The potential benefits are there regardless of where you start. It is honestly never too late.
Really? Even with severe limitations?
If you can sit in a chair, you can do chair yoga. If you can breathe, you can do breath work. If you can only move your arms a tiny bit, there are modifications for that. The point is to start sending those gentle biological signals. The benefits build up slowly, steadily, reliably, even from the simplest possible start.
So we've laid out the science, the mechanisms, the stories. What does this all mean for you listening right now? We've seen how it works, from cells lining your blood vessels to the vagus nerve calming inflammation. But the real power seems to boil down to one thing.
Consistency. That's the non-negotiable piece.
Yeah.
Dorothy, Frank, Martha, Richard, Susan, they got results because they stuck with it. They committed.
Right. You're asking your body to undo years, maybe decades of stress, damage, inflammation. It needs a clear, sustained signal.
Exactly. Which is why we really recommend thinking about something like a 90-day challenge. Based on the research timelines, that seems to be a period where significant changes often start to become measurable.
Okay, the 90-day challenge. What's the commitment?
Commit to at least 3 months. Practice gentle, modified yoga, remember. Gentle is key at least 3 times a week. 5 times would be ideal, if possible, and aim for at least 20 minutes each session.
And focusing not just on the movement, but the breathing, the mindfulness too.
Absolutely. Those elements are just as important, maybe more so, for initiating that systemic reset.
Okay, but how does someone start, like, today, right now?
We want to give you something you can do immediately. No mat needed, no special clothes. Just find a comfortable place to sit for 5 minutes. Close your eyes if you like, and just focus on your breath. Conscious breathing.
Is there a specific pattern you recommend?
A really simple, effective one for calming the system is this. Breathe in slowly, count of 4. Hold the breath gently, count of 4. Then breathe out slowly, really empty the lungs for a count of 6.
In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6.
That's it. Just repeat that pattern maybe 10 times. That extended exhale is key for activating the vagus nerve, shifting you out of that stress mode almost instantly. It reminds your body what calm feels like.
A 5-minute reset button.
Exactly. And then start tracking. Pay attention. How's your sleep? Your energy? Pain levels? Mental fog? Just notice any subtle shifts.
And maybe after those 90 days, get some objective data.
If you can, yes. Talk to your doctor. Maybe get follow-up blood work. Check those inflammatory markers we talked about, CRP, IL-6, alongside your usual checks for blood sugar, cholesterol, blood pressure. You might be genuinely surprised, even astonished, at the measurable changes your body can make when you just consistently give it the right conditions to self-correct.
What really strikes me looking at all this is the underlying message about the body itself.
Yeah, it's a fundamental confirmation, really. The human body wants to function optimally. It has this incredible inherent drive towards healing and balance.
Homeostasis. It's designed to self-correct.
It is. And that, well, the genius of yoga in this context is its simplicity, its elegance. It uniquely bundles together movement, breath, stress reduction, mindful awareness, providing exactly the right combination of signals the body needs to fix the underlying dysfunctions, like inflammaging, that drive these major age-related diseases. Often, it seems, more effectively than just throwing complex chemicals at the symptoms.
So the final thought, the provocative question we want to leave you with, it's not really about if yoga can help. The evidence suggests it strongly can.
The real question we all need to ask ourselves, maybe ask our healthcare systems too, is why do we consistently seem to prioritize the complex, the expensive, the treatments that often come with significant side effects?
Over these accessible, proven biological resets that our own bodies are perfectly capable of initiating if we just give them the chance.
Start providing those conditions today, right now. It can begin with just one conscious breath.